Well, there's no I in team, but there is an I in inflation. So I need to know about inflation, and you need to know about inflation too, especially in the context of our retirement planning.
Welcome to the Wealth Nation podcast, a podcast for every mother, daughter, grandmother, sister, and wife, and the men who are smart enough to tune in. The Wealth Nation podcast brings you all you need to know about investments, business, property investments, personal finance, and all-around financial wellness. Here is your host, Yolanda Rose.
Hey, it's Yolanda, and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Nation podcast. And we're in episode 4 of our mini-series on understanding inflation. And this is the final. For now, there's always stuff to talk about inflation, but this is something to whet your appetite, to urge you and spur you on to doing more research of understanding inflation. All right, if you're a Wealth Insiders member, I've got some great content for you in there, some nice videos, nice downloadable resources for you when it comes to inflation as well. So if you're new to the podcast, please subscribe on whichever platform that you are listening on, and mail me if there's something that you need me to cover. Or if you have a question about finance, it's Yolanda at financiallyfabulousfemales.com. And if you go to my website, it's www.financiallyfabulousfemales.com. There's a nice little button there with the mic in the middle of the page. If you click that button and speak into your device, I get to hear that message and I can respond to you. Maybe we'll do a video, we'll do a podcast episode, or if you leave your email address, I can mail you directly. All right, so take advantage of all the opportunities you have to ask all the questions and get all the answers you can about money and finance from a South African perspective. The Wealth Nation podcast is brought to you by Solomon Wealth Management. Solomon Wealth Management is an innovative team of wealth managers that addresses the entirety of your life, your family, your business, your future, one facet at a time. We use our skill and expertise to the consideration of what you have accumulated and how best to administer it through life's changes. From financial counsel on managing your wealth to careful contemplation of how to transfer it to future generations, it's your vision for your future combined with our skill and expertise to help you reach financial excellence. So if you want to sit with us one-on-one, go to www.solomonwealth.co.za, click on the Get Started button, and we could be chatting one-on-one. So today we're looking at the impact of inflation on our retirement planning. Okay, we can't just say, all right, we need $1 million for retirement. It's not that easy. We have to consider inflation. We have to consider taxes as well. And it's not really hard to sell a scary story of inflation. And if you start with me and I did your retirement planning for you, you would have seen your shortfall on your retirement is like maybe about 8 digits. And that's because when I plan, I take inflation into account. Okay, and you need to do that too if you're planning for yourself. And if you haven't sat with me or any financial advisor, you need to take that into account. And if you want me to do your planning for you, you can reach out. It's Yolanda at financiallyfabulousfemales.com. So if you have $1 million saved for retirement, okay, and you expect to spend 50,000 Rand a year. I know it's modest, okay, but I'm trying to do this math in my head right here. So we assume an 3% inflation rate per year and a 3% return a year. So basically that's cancelling each other off. That 1 million Rand would last you for 20 years. However, if the inflation rate was 12%, that 1 million Rand will run out in 10 years and 9 months. And that's a good reason to be alarmed. And that's a good reason why we need to be considering inflation into our retirement planning. So even in normal times, people who are planning for retirement or are already retired are worried about running out of money. And the potential for rising prices only adds to the anxiety. So as much as we plan for retirement, inflation is something that can't be controlled by us. So we always have to overplan when it comes to retirement because we don't know where inflation is going to take us. And the reality is that inflation is the enemy of fixed income. And if you speak with retirement people and you ask them where their retirement money is, they'll tell you it's in fixed income because fixed income is guaranteed and inflation just cancels that guaranteed income. We're not living in normal times, guys. I mean, you know where we are, the situation that we're in. We've got a pandemic on our hand. We've got poor governance on our hands. And it's all stacked against us as South Africans. And we need to plan ahead, and we need to plan early. So here's a couple of ideas how you can hedge against inflation for the long term in terms of your retirement planning. The first thing is not to panic. Okay? Don't get scared by inflation. But we can't ignore it, okay? We got to take the time to understand it, and that's the reason for this series on podcasts. So inflation in South Africa bounces around 4 and 5% per year. That's a modest number, considering that within inflation, there are various sectors that are far higher. Like petrol is around 10%. Healthcare, private healthcare is around 7.9% for this year. Our utility bill goes up around 15% a year. So we have those segments that are higher than the rate of inflation. And even within the food basket, certain foods are at 6-7%. Things like meat, they have a higher inflationary rate. At a rate of 3% a year, at an inflation rate of 3% a year, over 25 years means that the price of goods would double during that lifespan. So if we are looking at inflation at around 4.5-5%, maybe every 17 years or so, the price of goods will double. So that 1 million rand that you're planning to save for retirement, or you have saved for retirement, and if you're 30 years old, that 1 million rand could easily be 250,000 rand worth of buying power by the time you retire. But that's only half the story, right? Remember that when CPI, Consumer Price Index, is calculated, it is calculated on a generic basket of goods. But as I've mentioned, there are other higher inflation rates on the things that we need, especially during retirement, things like healthcare. Okay, healthcare is going to be super expensive in the future. I mean, does healthcare really get cheaper? And do you want to be at the mercy of the government hospitals? No, I don't think so. So those are heavy expenses that carry a higher inflationary rate that you would have to plan for during retirement. And that is why during retirement, the ability to service your retirement or get income from your life cover during retirement is of such a huge advantage. All right, if you're under 45 and if you want to know more about that, you got to contact me immediately. Okay, time is of the essence, guys. The better you can manage your whatever you're currently budgeting, the better your financial future is going to be. Okay, another thing you got to do to stabilize, prepare, and consider inflation during retirement is you got to keep a steady hand and you got to put money away into those income generation assets. I mean, we might not be able to beat inflation all the time, but at the very least, we can keep up with it. One thing I recommend to clients, and if you follow me on social media, specifically on YouTube, I'm always talking about multiple incomes during retirement. And you got to save beyond traditional retirement products. And like I mentioned, that life cover portion, that ability to drive from the life cover portion is going to help you during retirement. Okay. In South Africa, you have the option of pausing your life cover at retirement age, minimum 65. Okay. Have the cover in place, but have the benefits in place as well. And now if you don't currently have that on your life cover, you got to reach out and I can help you set something like this up. The ability to use a tax-free savings during your retirement years is invaluable. Okay, so I've just created 4 ways for retirement that you can benefit, right? The ability to draw from your life cover, your traditional retirement income, the ability to pause your life cover premiums, which are going to be huge during retirement, and tax-free investments. Because remember, when you withdraw from this investment product, you're not paying any taxes. And it's a product where you're not limited as to what you can put offshore. Okay, so it can grow for you at a far greater rate than traditional retirement products because you have so much control. You might not get the full tax benefits now, but it's a tax benefit you enjoy for the future. Whereas traditional retirement products give you massive tax benefits now, but you are taxed later. It may not be at the regular rate, but you are paying tax. And remember, building wealth is a 3-pronged approach. Understanding inflation, leveraging your taxes, and investing in risk protection. Okay, one way people choose to cope during retirement is cutting down on spending. Maybe they downsize their vehicle. They're going to something that's a little bit more fuel efficient. They're not on the roads as much. Okay, so people are adjusting their lifestyle to match their incomes at retirement. And this can be a change, right? Imagine at 63, flying a high, nice car, good income. And then at 65, you're living on canned beans. If you don't plan, that just might be the reality. Another thing that you need to do before retirement is get rid of that high income debt, is to get rid of that high consumer debt. You have to get rid of it. That is not something that you want to be carrying into retirement. It's not. You don't want to be carrying it now, let alone retirement, guys. Okay, and we spoke in our last episode about leveraging inflation. That's something that can work for you during retirement. But do the numbers, do the planning, do the due diligence on how you can make that work for you. And I'm a big fan of never retiring. I don't ever want to retire. I get bored. I don't want to live life as a faster pace as I'm doing now. I mean, the kids would be older. There's less responsibility on me. So I want to live life at a slower pace, but I still want to be working because I like my work-life balance. All right, I enjoy working. So I want to keep working during retirement, and that's going to provide me with an income as well. But if you don't want that, if you really want a slow pace of life, but you can't really afford to take that income hit, I highly encourage you to consider e-commerce. Now, if you go to my Instagram profile, in there you're going to see a link to a presentation that I did with a Hong Kong-based company and some local lending providers here in South Africa on how you can be leveraging e-commerce. It's such a growing thing. And if it's something that you can establish now, this can be your income for you during retirement. E-commerce is not slowing down. Okay, it's only picking up. And by the time, if you're in your 30s or 40s now, by the time you retire, more of everything is going to be online. I mean, shopping is going to be, traditional shopping as we know it growing up is going to be a thing of the past. And I want you to get into that early. So e-commerce can be a great leverage for you to beat inflation during retirement. All right, so those are my ideas for retirement, considering multiple incomes and leveraging e-commerce, and that's basically it, guys. Go and listen to this episode again and plan for your retirement. Now, if you want traditional financial planning, and I can give you some insight into a lot of what I said, especially in this inflation series as well, when it comes to your retirement planning, reach out. It's Yolanda at financiallyfabulousfemales.com.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to visit our website at www.financiallyfabulousfemales.com and sign up for our free investment masterclass.